These winter fishing hacks and top 10 expert winter fishing tips are guaranteed to up your game as you adapt to cold conditions and land more fish. Stick around because tip 10 is a total game changer. Let's go. Okay, tip 1 is to fish deep water. Winter fish are lethargic, their metabolism slows down, and they're often going to retreat into deeper, warmer water where the temperature is more stable. So if you're fishing out on a boat, use your fish finder to locate deep pockets and drop-offs and ledges and focus your efforts there. And if you're fishing from shore, do a little homework in the fall before winter and get a lake map so you know where the deepest sections of that lake are to target during winter. Okay, tip 2 is to slow down your presentation. In colder water, all fish are going to be less aggressive. So you want to switch to slower moving lures like jigs, spoons with flashy blades, or soft plastics with trailers that match the hatch, i.e. mimic the local prey in that body of water. And you have to make sure that you're pausing your retrieve for a few seconds. Vary the cadence, and many times they'll hit it after the pause, after they've had a little bit of time to study what's in front of them. So just use a slower retrieve and let your bait sit near or on the bottom for longer periods of time than you would in the summertime. That's especially true for catfish. They're going to be less active in winter, so you've got to be a little bit more patient with them. Tip 3 is to downsize your lures. Winter fish are a lot more cautious, and they often prefer smaller prey and need a little bit more time to make up their mind before striking. So downsizing your lures can actually make them more enticing. So instead of using a 4-inch or a 5-inch, in the summer, maybe you go with a 2-inch jig and a smaller trailer in the wintertime. Again, you got to give them time to find and take the bait in the wintertime. And after about a half an hour or so, if you haven't got a hit, maybe consider changing locations or spots. Tip 4 is to use lighter line. Thinner line is less visible in clear winter water, of course, and it's going to allow for a more natural lure presentation, especially when winter fishing. So you may consider using a lighter fluorocarbon than the heavy braided line that we're always praising. Because sometimes in winter, it's these subtle little tips and tricks and hacks like that that can make all the difference in the world for getting a sluggish fish to hit. Tip 5 is to fish during the warmest part of the day. Unlike in summer, midday to late afternoon is often best for winter fishing, and that's because fish are more active as the water temperature rises and the sun has been out for a few hours to bake the water surface. So just plan your trips accordingly, wait till the sun's been out for a few hours, and go for a good afternoon of fishing. Tip 6 is to target areas with underwater submerged structure, just like we harp on during the spring, summer, and fall. Especially in winter, fish are going to seek shelter near structure, like submerged trees, logs, dense vegetation, humps, rocks, and drop-offs. And that's, of course, because these spots are going to provide both warmth and shelter and a feeding ground for them during the winter months. Tip 7 is to dress for comfort and safety. Now that might seem pretty obvious, but staying warm and dry is critical, of course, in winter. So you want to invest in a good pair of waterproof boots, get some good insulated gloves, and dress in layers. And if you're going ice fishing especially, always check the ice thickness and the safety before you ever head out. And make sure you've got your cell phone, smartphone with you at all times. And it's a good idea to let a loved one know when you're going and where you're going in case there's ever an issue. Tip 8 is to be able to adjust to changing weather in the wintertime. Barometric pressure changes will impact a fish's behavior and feeding patterns. And that's due to their lateral line, of course. A stable or a slightly rising barometric pressure is usually going to be best for winter fishing. So just keep an eye on that when you're going out in the afternoon. Tip 9 is to be quiet. Winter fish are very easily spooked because of calmer water and outside conditions. So always minimize noise by gently lowering your anchor if you're out on a boat, and avoiding sudden movements when you're approaching the shoreline if you're out bank fishing. Hey, it's no different than a deer hunter who's up in his tree stand, afraid to even pass gas or burp up there. So it's no different for fishing in the wintertime. Okay, tip 10, I hope you're still with us, is to keep your bait warm, and that is a game changer. If you're using live bait like minnows and worms like we do all year round, but especially in winter, you want to keep them warmer to maintain their activity so that they're still lively and vivacious. If you get an insulated bait bucket, that can make a huge difference in catching more fish, and that we guarantee. Winter fishing does not have to be intimidating. With all these 10 tips we just shared with you, you're going to be prepared to catch more fish and enjoy every minute that you're out on the water in winter. Now's a good time to remind you to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and enable your bell notifications so you'll always get our most recent fishing tips and tricks videos that we post every day. Okay, now let's use the rest of the time to really just summarize and hone in on all the points we've covered so far. Okay, so first, again, you want to find deeper water. Deep holes, channels, and underwater structure like fallen trees and logs and dense vegetation is where all fish are going to be in the wintertime for warmer and more stable water temperature as well as shelter to hide during the winter months. And as we mentioned, using a slower bait presentation in winter is really important. You want to make sure you're using a slower retrieve with lots of pauses, and especially if you're catfishing, let your bait sit near or on the bottom for longer periods of time. Especially catfish are going to be less active in winter, so you have to learn a little bit more patience and persistence in the wintertime. And also, for catfishing, we want to make sure we're using heavier gear, like heavier weights, to ensure the bait gets all the way down to the bottom, and a bigger octopus circle hook, like a size 7/0 or 8/0, for flatheads and blue catfish, because you want to be able to make sure you're handling bigger fish and compensating for the colder water conditions because of sluggish hook sets. And probably most important of all, in winter, you want to make sure that you're using high quality baits that are high in protein, high in fat, high in oil, and for catfish, a high stink factor. Baits like cut bait, chicken liver, and stink baits, which are going to attract sluggish catfish in colder water who just don't want to eat and expend the time and energy to chase bigger baits. And hey, if you ask us, half the fun of winter catfishing is actually finding where the fish are going to be hiding. And if you're ice fishing on the lake for any fish, you might want to drill a number of holes, of course, and vary the depth of each. Use different baits on different rods until you find a spot that seems to be working. Just make sure that you're concentrating on depths near any ledges or drop-offs that you found on your lake map. And back on the topic of catfishing in rivers or lakes during winter, you absolutely want to be fishing in submerged structure. That's even more true during colder winter water. Just find structure like log jams or sunken trees or logs in the river or even beaver dams that might be interrupting the natural current flow in the channel of the river or the lake. All these structure points are going to be the perfect resting spots and hiding spots, primarily for channel catfish and flatheads. Okay, folks, that's it. Let's wrap this thing up. If you're following all these simple steps, tips, tricks, techniques, and hacks, you're finding the right spot and location, you're using fresh bait, you're always setting up the right rig based on the conditions and the targeted fish you're after, and you're being patient, you will greatly increase your chances of catching more fish during the wintertime. Remember, success is always going to come down to your preparation and your persistence. So thanks as always for watching this video. We appreciate it. Good luck out there on the water. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fishing tips and tricks and hacks. And let us know in the comments, too, how all these strategies and tips have worked for you. And until next time, tight lines, happy fishing, folks, and we will see you out on the water soon. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.